Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Road to Pro. I'm Chase, and I'm going to teach you how to play some defense today. There's a whole lot of different things that come into playing defense that a lot of beginners and rookies don't know, and even some pros probably don't know all of the tips and tricks. So for me, I'm going to go through my things that I think are very important for having a great defense. Let's get on the table. Alright everyone, when it comes to playing defense, the very first and most important thing is actually your spacing. If you're ending up with the guys in a straight line or even close together from any side of the table, you're doing something wrong. What I mean by that is, if your guys are too close together, you're wasting the space that allows for you to take up more of the goal. So, what do I mean by that? Well, you want, essentially, at most, one ball width. If it's only one ball width between the guys at all times, it makes that middle, or even a three-quarter shot, very difficult to hit. It makes trying to hit the holes even harder. So when you have really good spacing, and your guys are always spaced really well, it makes it even harder to score on you. So the very first step is definitely going to be spacing. You're always going to want to never pass about half a ball length on either side of the goal, because if it's a half a ball length, they can't score. And if you always have a ball width in between, now we're talking almost two ball widths at any time you don't have to cover in front of the goal. That is going to give you a very big advantage when just playing defense alone, even if you don't have great movement or don't know any of their weaknesses. Just having really good spacing at all times is going to allow for you to really have an edge on your competition. Now, when it comes to movement, you never want to be too predictable. So constantly going like this with your defense, even though you have good spacing, is predictable. They're going to start timing the holes. They're going to start hitting stuff when you start pulling away from it or going towards it. It allows for people to find a rhythm and start hitting those holes more correctly or more often. You want to try and be sporadic. Try and keep your spacing good at all times, but mix the guys up, mix the locations up, make quick transitions. Kind of jump guys around in different places, but always try and have really good spacing. If you have great spacing and good movement, that alone is going to get you a lot of blocks. But there's so much more to playing defense than just good spacing and good movement. Now that you've been working on your spacing and your movement, you can really start to get a better idea of how to properly block people. But just spacing and movement alone isn't going to get you the blocks that you need in big crucial moments or to just kind of brick somebody. What you also need to know are some of the basics of what make specific shots possible. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a pull shot for example. If you're up against a pull shooter and they have the ball directly underneath the rod or even slightly in front of it, that tells you a few things. Probably a lot more than you would think. So, if they have the ball very far forward, it means their straight shot is going to be really good. They're going to be able to hit a straight much better than they are going to be able to hit a long. The reason for it, and we always bring it back to physics, is because of physics. Now, to have a great long, you have to have cutback on the ball. If you don't have a quality cutback, your long isn't going to go super deep or even possibly dead bar. So, if you see the ball straight forward like this, you know that they're most likely going to spray the ball, so they're not going to have a great middle. They can hit a middle, but it's not going to be a great middle. Their long's probably going to be okay because they can spray it, but they're not going to be able to go out and around, say, even that guy, all the way out here. That's because the ball's going to spray for them. So you never have to truly cover super far and super long on a pull shot. Now, this hole for them is going to be much easier because it is a spray. It goes right along with their shot. They're going to be able to just kind of pop it in there. And you also are going to know that their straight is really good. So really, anything between here and here is going to be their bread and butter. They're going to be able to hit shots between here and here very, very well. But they may not be able to hit the long very well. So if you run into somebody that necessarily has a pull shot that sets the ball directly underneath or even far forward, you're going to want to block the straight and the middle the most, forcing them to hit the shot that they're not good at, which would be the long. Now, is this going to be, the rule for every single player in the world? Of course not. But against beginners, rookies, and even some pros, this is going to really help you just blocking that shot alone. Now, what happens if the ball's in the back far behind the rod? Well, one, they're going to have a much better tuck. It means when they want to shoot something that's even in between these two guys, they're going to be able to do it because the ball's going to naturally cut back for them. So it's going to come over and then cut back a little bit, because when they cut back across the ball, they're going to be able to squeeze it in there a little bit better than somebody that doesn't. Also, it's most likely that their long is really good. This is going to allow for them to come all the way out, cut the ball back, and hit a great shot that's a long. But what's their weakness? Their weakness when the ball's this far back is going to be a straight. They have to pick up their guy way higher up than the guy that's here. This guy only has to come to a little bit to pop a straight. If it's way back here, they have to lift up really high and cut across the ball to hit the straight. But their middle and long are going to be much better. So you're going to want to keep maybe one ball mark, or even just half a ball or 3/4, always kind of blocking here and there, but knowing that they have a weaker straight than the other two shots that are out there, you're going to want to block longs and middles more often. Again, it's not gospel, but it definitely is going to help you block players that don't know what they're doing. Now, let's move on to a rollover. For rollover shooters, it's a little bit more tricky. What I mean by that is, if they're rocking the ball, or if you've never played them before, you have to find their weakness. Unless you already know them and you know their weakness is, say, they don't have a great push side, well, then obviously you want to leave them a push to try and hit every time. But if you don't know them and you're trying to figure out what shot is best for them, there's kind of 2 or 3 ways to kind of figure that out. The first part of that is, what side of the ball are they rocking on the most? If he's rocking on the far side of the ball the most, and you see it offset from center a little bit, it probably means he has a good pull side and he doesn't have a good push side. Because the physics don't allow for it unless he throws this big hitch to come back push side. But he's already kind of like loaded up to go pull side all the time, but you want to test it. You always want to know what they're best at. Beginners, rookies, amateurs, and even experts, their first shot most of the time that they take is going to be their best shot. And you're going to want to base your defenses off of that. If they hit this incredible push side right off the start, their first shot, they're rocking real fast, and they hammer a push side, I'd highly suggest not giving them any more push sides. Force them to other holes. Don't allow for them to dictate what you're, let them dictate what you're blocking, but in the reverse fashion. So a lot of shooters try and abuse a goalie in a way of, I'm going to shoot this hole until you block it, and then I'm going to try and find something else. Well, that's on a top level. Beginners, rookies, amateurs, experts don't read the holes that well. So they have to find ways to score. They're going to shoot their best shot sometimes, even when your guys are there. So it means to not jump. Trust your defense. So if you don't want him to go push side, make sure you're always blocking push side in some way. Find a way to always have a guy covering it. Not saying to not block other holes, but the majority of the time, you're going to want to be blocking the side that they are best at. Now, if he's on this side of the ball all the time, he's going to be able to shoot a push side better. When you're rocking the ball, and we talked about this in the snake shot tutorial, whatever side that they're on, the opposite side is what's going to be easiest from that position. So if he's on this side of the ball, he's going pull side. If he's on that side of the ball, he's going push side. This is why people like Lewis Cartwright have such a great shake D. They get on the rock that they see a player have, and they match it with their defense. They will have the guys rock in the alternate direction of where the ball is. And then when they shoot, he's already there. Now, once you have that weakness of theirs, force them to their weakness every time. If you're not comfortable shooting a specific shot, it's going to be very difficult for you to shoot that shot over and over and over again in tournament when the pressure's on the line. So you really have to take away what they're great at, force them to what they're not great at, and start playing percentages. You have to realize that this game isn't about shutting people out, isn't about bricking someone all day. It's about getting the big blocks in the crucial moments and getting a few intermediate blocks in between. So when you're playing in a big tournament and there's a big block that needs to happen, you're going to be having a higher percentage of blocking that shot than someone else if you've learned their weaknesses and moved on from there and just continued to build on your defense from that game plan. Now, a lot of new players have a really hard time with people that move the ball around. Well, it's because they're terrified of these big booming shots and they're trying to follow the ball around. And you should follow the ball. However, whenever somebody has the ball out here and you're thinking, oh, they're going to shoot a pull kick. Well, most people don't have a grand pull kick. I'd force them to hit it a few times. If you see them out here, most of the time you're going to get a dink or a fast dink. And if you see new players, they always bail. They want to run away from it, and it's really hard for them to just sit there and block the shot. Hitting a big pull kick from out here, yeah, it's doable, but nobody wants to be forced to do it. They want to be able to trick you. And in bar play, and even in light tournaments, if you're a newer player and somebody kind of needs a shot, they're going to send a dink at you. I've seen it time and time again with decent players. They're like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to get a little quick dink in here and get a goal. Well, if you're a good player, that never happens. You know, good players are always on that stuff, ready for it. Ready for when the easy and weak shots are coming, and then you get the big turnover. So whenever you see somebody slide it out there, post both guys there. This is the only time I kind of want you to be in that I formation, so to speak. It forces them to be hitting a bigger shot. If you actually go back and watch my match against Billy Pappas, he hits me with 2 monster push kicks from his 3-rod. I'm going to allow that to happen. It's not a mistake. It's not a shot that I didn't block properly. It is he has to hit that shot correctly and well in order to beat me. And I'm okay with that theory. Because at some point in time, they're going to miss that shot. And top players outside of like a Billy or a Tony, they're not going to even shoot them. You know, it's lower ranked players are going to misexecute, mishit, hit the wall. You have to play the percentages of defense to hold on to a really strong defense. Now, there's so much more to defense than just spacing, knowing positions of the ball, figuring out your opponent, seeing what they do. There's a little bit of what I like to call intangibles. So you have to train your mind that if you're playing goalie, okay, and the opponent is shooting even from their 2-row, that if it's going to hit off something, you need to be able to adjust your guys. You have to be able to adjust in the space to block. Now, just like the dinks, if you see it hit off something, you're going to want to react and adjust. Come in, adjust, adjust, adjust. Now, these are things you're going to have to learn over time. It's not something that's easy to learn. It's a lot of playtime. It's a lot of learning. But once you kind of have all those pieces, you really start to build on your defense. Let's talk about positioning for a moment real quick, just to reiterate what we just went over, because it's a lot of information. If you see the ball setting forward for a pull shot, you don't want to give them a straight or a middle. You're going to want to play games with straight and middle, bumping out into the long here and there, forcing them to hit the shot that they're not good at. Always having good spacing and looking around. Never trying to be too predictable, but always having good spacing. Now, if you see the ball back in their stance, you're going to want to watch the long and middles a lot more. Always jumping back to cover straight a little bit, but it's going to be their hardest shot. You're going to want to keep that in the back of your mind. You got to wait for the big lift up and then jump back. For a rollover, if they set it straight up and down and there's never any fluctuation on the side of the ball that they're rocking on, play standard defense. Make them hit the corners, but always take it away a little bit too. Never just give them an easy middle. And once you figure out what side they're better at, start taking it away. Making it the shot that's even harder for them to hit because they want to hit it the most. Now say they're possibly rocking on that side of the ball. You want to force them to a pull side, since a push side for them is obviously easier. Now if they're on this side of the ball, they're going to be having an easier time shooting a pull side. You're going to want to force them to a push side and make them hit it almost every time. Again, it's not about blocking every shot. It's about getting the best percentage of blocks that you can get and making the forward make mistakes. Thanks for watching another episode of Road to Pro. With all these little tips and tools, you'll really be able to up your game and up your defense. Defense is really going to be a very important part of the game that you're learning to play. With these tips and tricks, when you combine them, when you start using your experience, you're really going to be able to take your game to a whole nother level. Defense at its finest and at a very top level isn't something that you have to block someone on every shot or block them all the time or even a fair high percentage. If you get about 50% of the blocks, your forward should win you the game. Just a general statistic. Now, when you put these pieces together, you actually will find that you're going to be getting a lot more blocks on a lot more players. Good luck out there, guys. Happy foosing. Hey guys, if you like this video, please do me a favor. Click the subscribe button right over here. Also, if you want to check out my last video of Road to Pro, click up here. Thanks, guys.